Good day, guys and girls. So today we are going to be looking at installing, or in the case of myself here, reinstalling a dash cam onto the brand new Ford Mustang Mach-E. This will be the same information for any vehicle out there, any EV vehicle out there, truck, SUV, car, doesn't matter. The instructions are the same for all of them. You need power, you need to run your wiring, you need to mount the cameras themselves. So this one here is a Thinkware. It's a Thinkware FA200. It has served me well, no issues with it, it's still working. I figured as long as the thing's still working, we may as well use it. It's 1080p. The video quality is very, very good. Is there better cameras out there? Absolutely. Have we spent enough on this Mach-E already? Oh, you bet your butt. So anyways, we're just going to do a fairly concise video on how to install this system or any dash cam system on specifically the Mach-E. But again, this will work for any product out there, any SUV, truck, car, any brand, Ford, Mazda, Chev, Dodge, doesn't matter. They're all the same theory. With the Mach-E though, these fuses that they use, this is too big. This I believe is called a mini, and it must be a super mini for whatever they're using because they are tiny. So I already know that this doesn't fit, so I need to swap this out. This is the power lead. This is always getting power, and this other one here, this red one, is the trigger, so that tells it to turn on and off. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There's two wires and a ground to install, and if you don't want to use the patrol mode, the away from vehicle mode where it's always watching and surveilling, they might call it surveillance mode too, depends on the manufacturer, you only really need to install the power plug. So we're going to get into the vehicle. We're going to open up the fuse panel. We're going to show you what fuses you can and can't use, and we're going to go from there. So hopefully you find this informative and we can help you out. Alright guys and girls, so the first thing we're going to need to do to install this dash cam is find our access to the fuse panel. Now in the Mach-E, it happens to be underneath this carpet liner here. So this is actually a fuse panel right here. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the floor mat out. Just simply pops off of this little support rivet. So we'll pull that out. Apologize for the road noise. Busiest street in this city. So glove box, open it up. There's a little tab on both sides here that allows that to drop. And then what this is here, this is like a little I don't know if you want to call it a shock absorber, but it basically allows the glove box to open slowly. So there's a little, you can try squeezing that with your fingers to compress it to pop this off, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a pair of pliers, compress it slightly, and pop that off. You got to kind of get this up at the right angle, and these tabs will release just like that because they've got a hook on there. I don't think this is totally necessary to the process, but I think it just gives you a little bit more room in here, a little bit more headroom definitely. So there's the fuse panel under here. And I'm sorry, I'm probably getting in the shot here. It really does not want to release. So as it turns out, there's actually a grommet or a plastic plug under here and one under here. So what we're going to need to do is loosen it up first with a flathead screwdriver, and then we can follow it up if you have it with one of these prying tools. If not, you can pry it out enough with these that you can actually pull it out by hand. And actually pulling it out by hand works just fine. Sorry, I'm trying not to get in the shot. And those people were actually just talking about my car. Pretty rare here in Ontario. I've only seen 2 in town. So you didn't actually need the pry tool. There's the fastener that I'm talking about. So basically, all you're doing is you're taking a screwdriver and just working this edge up a little bit. Then once it comes loose like that, you can pull this whole panel down. I didn't realize that it was actually connected in here. I figured that this whole piece would have just popped out. Now, I said this in my past videos because I've done install videos for Ford Fusion, 2010 Ford Fusion, and a 2010 Ford Flex. And honestly, Ford just puts these panels in the most ignorant places imaginable, like the most inaccessible, hard to reach, however you want to describe that, throw in any adjective you want. But yeah, just the worst places. These things should be quick and simple to get to. I think honestly they do it because they want to charge for it. You know, you could have thrown a panel here. You could have thrown one in here. You know, my Saturn, it's right there. You pull the panel out, you have full access to it. Saturn was a little different, you know, but they tried to make things user friendly. But anyways, we're getting off subject. So as you can see now, excuse my shoddy skills here, but we've now exposed the interior fuse panel. So we're ready to figure out what is going on and where we can actually attach to. So we're starting with the rear camera install, and what we've done is we've taken the security cover off, which is this piece right here. You can see there's little lips that they stick into right here. So it literally just pops right down out of that. This piece gets removed from the middle here. You literally just stick your fingers in here and pull with a little bit of force. You can see that there's these metal tabs on the back. So it'll pop right out. Now the first hurdle really that we've hit here is, and excuse my camera skills here, and excuse all the people driving by, is if you watch my last video install, what we did is we actually ran the wiring down through this and then underneath. Well, the problem here is that you can't get anything in there to actually fish down and around that tight of a turn with no access right here. So I bet Ford has some kind of tool that they can use, or audio video installers for that fact. I can see that there is a cover panel here. So I mean, you'd have to take this whole inside off, pull that just so you could even access this, and then after that it's got a tight turn. I'm sure the pros can do it. It's a little out of my realm. So I thought, well, maybe you could pop this off, and you can, but there's a tab there, there's a tab here, a tab here, and a tab on the back side. So I'm thinking Ford has some kind of release tool that kind of goes around and pinches and it pulls that whole thing off. I don't want to ruin that weather seal because I know what's going to happen. It's not going to be good. So what we've done instead is a little cheat, if you want to call it that, is where the windshield washer nozzle is going through. We've popped this grommet out. So we pop that up, we've run the cable through there, and then we're just gonna simply push this grommet back down, and then we're gonna put a couple of zip ties onto this cable here. So if we simply follow this tube right here, sorry, it's not a cable, this tube, and we put this cable onto it, there's enough slack in there that it's not gonna get pinched, it's not gonna be bound in any way. You can see that there's actually a raised section right here, and then the grommet itself. So there would have to be a lot of water coming down through here in order for it to leak into the cabin itself. We can also put some silicone around that if we're really unsure about it, but it's gonna be fine. And that way we can run the wire up through here. We'll stub it out behind the plastic piece, and we're gonna mount this camera in the rear. Okay, guys and girls, so we've got the dash cam installed. We centered it up so that the camera is perfectly center of this back window. We left it out just a hair so that there's some room to play if we need to lift this panel off again. You can see there's just a hair of slack here, and then everything else has been fastened to that washer cable, or washer, I don't want to call it a cable, washer tube. And then what we probably will do is we'll just hit that with just a little bit of silicone, just so we know that it's sealed. I know it's not going anywhere, but we're gonna seal her up anyways. That grommet's pushed back in. We ran the wire in underneath this panel here, so it's sitting right in here. And as you can see now, it's coming out between these two panels here. One thing I should also mention, clean hands. Clean hands, because especially with this sealing, it's just going to be a nightmare. So all we're going to do is we're going to run the wire across here, across the weather stripping, cross up there, and down to the fuse panel. Sorry for the bad angles on this, but as you can see, we've run it underneath this panel right here, and we've stubbed out at the weather stripping here. So now all we're going to do is we're going to just pull this weather stripping back. I'm trying to do this one-handed, but we're literally gonna tuck it up just like that. No muss, no fuss. You don't have to pull out the sealing liner. We're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna tuck it in here, run across the other weather stripping, and down to the fuse panel. Okay, so we've run it through here. We're now up to the front weather stripping. And again, I'm trying to do this one-handed, but you can see if you just get that started, now we're here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna have, again, sorry for the shoddy, we got a lot of slack here, and this is supposed to go to the front camera. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bundle everything up. We're probably gonna run it down to this bottom kick panel. You can see right here, we'll just basically bury all that slack in there, or you can actually tuck it inside where the glove compartment's going. But we'll just kind of play around with it a little bit, and I'll show you how we did it in a few. Okay, guys and girls, so we have the front camera mounted. I figured this was a good spot. It's hidden from view, mostly when you're on the driver's side. You can just barely see it here on the passenger side. We're gonna get some little mounting clips, so we're actually gonna mount these wires so they're tucked up a little bit better. We might just take a notch out of this plastic right here so that we have a spot for the wires to come out, so that you don't see this gap right here. But for now, we're just gonna leave it there. The wires have been tucked up behind here, behind, then they come around here, down the side, down, and as you can see, we're just coming out here so that we can get into the fuse panel below. So really the only spot that you're gonna see this is on the passenger side, and we are gonna tuck it back just a little bit. So all you're gonna see is just 3 wires that are coming across here, but we've got everything down to the fuse panel. We just need to worry now about getting the right fuse taps for this. So it's a micro 2 fuse, which was unbeknownst to me. So anyways, we're gonna get things hooked up and then we'll show you how everything runs in the end. So we're ready to make the connections into the fuse box on our Mustang Mach E, and again, this goes for any vehicle out there, truck, SUV, car, doesn't matter whether it's an EV, hybrid, gas engine, diesel, doesn't matter. The principle is the same for all of them. Now, the reason why I'm covering this right now, and we mentioned this earlier, is that the Mustang Mach E uses these micro 2 fuses, which I've never heard of. Every single vehicle that I've ever owned, starting from 1996 onward, or that's the vehicles that I owned as a 96 and then onward, always used ATM fuses. So ATM fuses look like this. This is a kit that I bought off of Amazon. It's micro 2 fuse taps. It comes with some fuses and it comes with a fuse puller, which I can't find in my Ford Mach E, so I guess this is a good thing to have. I was just using needle nose pliers, which does work, but it can damage the fuse if you're not careful. So that's the actual fuse tap. But what I wanted to do is compare the sizes of these fuses. And I'm even going to compare the same fuse size, amperage size. So you can see the size difference there. And why Ford had to go to this micro 2, I have no idea. You got all kinds of room in a fuse box, so the fuse box goes from this size to this size. You know what I mean? Like this size to this. Like, what's the point? So anyways, that's what kind of held us up for a minute there, because I couldn't find these at my local auto parts stores. So here in Canada, and I'm not sponsored by them, but Canadian Tire, Part Source, CarQuest, Napa, Walmart, you name all those places, they didn't have them. It was even hard just to find replacement fuses, let alone to get a fuse tap, but no one had the fuse tap. I forgot to point out Princess Auto. Princess Auto, obviously the makers of Power Fist. So I got this kit off of Amazon. I'm not sponsored by Amazon. It was about $14 Canadian. Came with 4 taps, so it's enough to put in 2 dash cams in 2 different vehicles. Yeah, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to take this terminal end, you're going to slide in either the power or the trigger wire, and you're going to clamp it down. The connector that's on there is actually quite large, so what they've done is they've included these connectors here. So this would connect to the actual wire that you're trying to connect to, if that makes sense. So we're trying to hook up the constant power. We're going to crimp this onto the constant power, and then this is actually going to slide into here. So it's dual function. You can either use it as a butt connector like this, or a bullet connector, or you can actually slide the wire into here and crimp it down. And to crimp, you can use a set of pliers like this. These ones don't work as well as something like this. This is actually made for all the different connector sizes. So this is actually made, you put the wire in there, you pick your size of gauge, put it in there, you clamp down, and it crimps that wire in there for you. It's the same thing on this end. So you're going to put piece in here, crimp it down. Or you can use this style here, crimp it down. Okay? Very straightforward. You can even use just a standard set of pliers. It will work, but it doesn't make the best connection, the most secure connection. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to crimp everything down. We're going to get everything put into the box. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Well, hopefully this shows up the way I intended to, guys and girls, but just wanted to show you which circuits we removed. So we removed circuit 13, which is this one here, which was a 15 amp circuit that's not being used, so we don't have to worry about you know, screwing up something, shorting out something. It's not going to happen anyways, but at least this way we know it's on a fuse that's not being utilized and we're good. So this is fuse number 13. As you can see, the accessories are on now. Okay, so that one's on. This one is fuse number 3. Again, it's not used. It's a 10 amp circuit. It's on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to turn off the vehicle, so it's not on accessory anymore. I was hoping to make a beep sound so that you knew that it was being turned off, but I can assure you it is being turned off. Nothing on fuse number 3, but we still have constant power on fuse number 13. I'll put up a fuse diagram for this so that it's a little bit easier to understand. But what we're going to do is fuse number 13, that 15 amp, that's going to be our constant or our battery power. And again, on this dash cam, it says battery on the yellow cable, and then it says ACC for accessory on the red. Okay, so we're going to get that all hooked up. Just wanted to excuse this bad skills here. So this is just a standard circuit tester. You put it onto a ground. So I've clipped it onto this metal right here, which I think is actually aluminum. Good on Ford for trying to use some products that are going to save weight. And then up in here, that bolt right there, that's where the ground is. That's where the ground is for the dash cam. It's 11 millimeter bolt. Just back it off a little bit, slide your ground up in there, tighten it up, and you're ready to start putting your fuse tap in there. So we're ready to install the fuse tap. So what I've done is I've added the 15 amp fuse back in. It goes on the bottom. The 5 amp is whatever your accessory is. In this case, it's the dash cam, the constant battery power. We've connected the two together. They're not coming apart. And literally all you're going to do, hopefully you're seeing this and my ham hands aren't blocking it, and you're literally just going to push it into place. That's it. That's your connection made. So we're going to do the same thing with the accessory power, and we're going to drive on. So we've got the two fuse taps installed, and what I'd like to mention too is the accessory and the constant battery fuse tap fuse that I put in was a 5 amp fuse. We were tying into, in the case of the accessory, we were tying into a 10 amp fuse, so we put on a 5 amp fuse for the dash cam. The constant power was a 15 amp fuse. We put in a 5 amp fuse just to limit the power. Now I just wanted to note too that our dash cam, it's maybe hard to see just out of frame here, but each circuit is individually fused in the wiring harness, so you don't have to worry about it. You could put a 20 amp fuse, you could put a 30 amp fuse in there, it doesn't matter. The fuses that are on the actual harness itself are going to protect the dash cam, so don't stress yourself out about that. But I just chose a 5 amp because it was the lowest amperage, and I know that the dash cam is not drawing anything for amps. So I just wanted it to be a little bit less in power. Okay guys and girls, so we are at the finish line. We have got the rear camera mounted. We've got all the wires tucked up, under, up and over. Again, up, buried in the weather stripping here, through this paneling here. out here down the weather stripping, and the only part that you see are those wires that are tucking in right there, and they tuck right on top of this lower kick panel here. You saw how we did that connection back behind the fuse panel here. Excuse all the traffic, we are the busiest and most unsafe and fastest road in this city. So anyways, yeah, so we've got the wiring all back here, up and around here. You can see it likes to just stick up in there. And then we put a piece of loom on here to hide these wires as it comes down to the unit itself. There's no status light on right now. Let's turn the car on. And there we go. She's starting to turn on. So everything's been hooked up correctly. Let's turn that down before YouTube police come after us. There's the green light saying that everything's good. We'll get the camera all set up and angled at the right angle so it's catching everything. If you really want to, you can take a piece of double-sided tape and you can actually fold that loom up there and it just basically disappears. Makes for a nice, really clean install. So as you can see from the driver's side, from our point of view, you can barely see the bottom and you can just see this wire loom right here. If you want to tuck it up, you're not going to see anything. It just basically disappears. So I hope you guys and girls found this video informative. I think the reason why you're here is you're caring more or concerned more about the content, not the quality of the content. If you're looking for something that's super flashy and got lots of effects in it and everything, this probably isn't your place. But if you're looking for good information to try to get something done around your house, your car, your property, things that I think anybody is capable of with a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of information, you really don't know what you're capable of. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. We're adding content like this all the time. We just picked up this Mach-E a month and a half ago, so obviously the content right now is going to be heavy on Mach-Es. We're going to give you a Canadian's point of view of a Mach-E. Whether that matters to you or not, I don't know, but if it can survive in Canadian climates, it can survive anywhere. Think about giving it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me why down in the comments why you didn't like it. Constructive criticism is always welcome. If you have any questions at all, I will answer them. I answer 100% of questions that are PG. So yeah, I would love to help you out. That's why I'm here, to help you guys and girls out, because you never know unless you bear. We'll see you on the next video.